Good evening, everybody. Mr. Chairman, the last speaker is the most unwanted speaker probably because everybody is so tired that nobody wants to hear and everybody is wishing that let this thing be over as soon as it is possible.
But you see the audience in charge, sir. They are waiting for you.
I think they have been charged enough right in the morning by Mr. Yashwant, and in his opening remarks, I think they were very, very indicated. बहुत ही बेहतरीन उन्होंने बात कही थी जो मेरे दिल में रही और उन्होंने एक बात कही थी कि वहीं से मैं शुरू करता हूँ कि political consultants are pathologists and that's it. उसके आगे उनकी भूमिका नहीं है. But the question is pathology and pathologists enough? Do you need doctors also? And if political consultants are just the pathologists, who is going to play the role of a doctor? And there comes the academician. And for that, I congratulate Professor Afroz that he has been able to amalgamate what the pathologist and the doctor would collectively like to do, and this is why Billion Connect is born. You see, political communication, and especially the topic this evening, the last topic that we are given to, the theme is Beyond the Ballot and Innovative Approaches. Do we really understand the meaning of beyond the ballot? Because political consultancy stops at the ballot and your topic is beyond the ballot, and therefore I think I fit in here probably because I don't belong to the domain of political consultants. I am a teacher and therefore I was constantly thinking why I am here. And Mr. Deshmukh gave me the idea that why I should be here. And I think that probably Afroz and me can be, can dare to say that, okay, we cannot be pathologists, but can we be doctors? Because you do need a doctor and you do need a pathologist. So we are not going to step in your shoes and not do political advising and consulting. But certainly we are going to be something which the society needs terribly. So coming to the topic, to my mind, every political communication has first and foremost to concentrate on the target. What is the target audience? Whom you are trying to address? Whom you are trying to communicate? There is something which you might have heard on a rickshaw, a tonga, there is a loudspeaker and somebody going on speaking and speaking and speaking, nobody bothered. He is also trying to communicate, but is he really connecting with the audience? He is probably not connecting with the audience. And therefore, what I have seen these days, the politicians today, they are communicating, but the question is whether they are connecting also. And here lies the problem that how to ensure political consultants to see that the politicians who are trying to communicate, they are not only trying to communicate, but they should also get connected to the audience, to the target to whom they are trying to communicate, with whom they are trying to communicate. So this is a serious thing which Mr. Deshmukh was pointing out, that's why you need not only people during elections, that's why this political consultancy, my friends and students, is giving you a regular self-employment kind of a thing. Don't think that this political communication and consultancy is just limited to the period of electioneering, which is by and large happening every time, somewhere in the country here and there. But it is a regular, exercise which warrants that the political individuals, whether they are the politicians or whether they are political parties, they should be constantly advised. And that's why political consultancy is going to be a continuous process and very lucrative entrepreneurship also in the society. So I think that do we understand that the topic here is voter mobilization and do we understand that election commission has been using the terms differently, electors and voters? And do we really, while communicating, do we really understand this distinction of elector and the voter? Probably we are not. Everybody is talking about voter and voter and voter. So those people that we have in the electoral role, they are the electors. And those electors who are actually going to the polling booth and casting their franchise, they are the voters. So to say that you have to voter mobilization is a partly incorrect thing. You have to have an elector mobilization, and that is the perfect thing to do, because you do not know who will go to cast the vote. Many people who are able to vote and they probably not willing to go to vote. Some people are willing to vote, but they are not able to cast vote because they do not have an identity card, or maybe that their listed name is missing from the list. So all these things are happening, and therefore I would like to make a distinction between the elector, the voter, and even not only the voter, but the voter in the making is also your target. Probably you must have seen that somebody may not be your voter today, but he may not be an elector. His name may not be in the electoral list, but can you afford only to communicate with the voter? No, you have to communicate with the people who are not yet voters and yet they are in the process of becoming electors and the voters. You have to communicate them also. So these are the target audience. And my friend Khushbu has recently, I was greatly impressed by your presentation. I missed some of my friends, and she brought in gender. So are you also trying to communicate in a very specific manner with the gender? Or you are just trying to generalize your communication? Are your communication target specific? And if they are you also targeting women separately? And I'll come to that later. But so this is, that is one thing. Secondly, when you are trying to communicate with electors or people or voters, whosoever they are, you must also keep in mind that there are certain voters who are committed voters. Whatever you do and whatever you communicate and whatever you say, they are probably fixed voters, but your entire communication is addressed to the floating voters who are the decisive voters. But of course, some of the ideologically committed voters can also be transferred to the other camp. Like we have seen in the case of the BJP, there was time when 12%, 13% people were voting BJP in Uttar Pradesh, and now it is 50% people voting BJP in Uttar Pradesh. So certainly there is a transition from some camp to some ideological camp to other camp. So there are situations in which you can extricate voters from a particular ideological camp and transfer it to the other camp. But then that requires a sophisticated caliber and high caliber of voter mobilization and political communication. So that is one thing we have to keep in mind, a target. The second thing which convinces me very much in political communication and political mobilization is the dimensional aspect of political communication. Political communication is not, a linear, uniform that we are trying to politically communicate. But when you look at political communication and we are strategizing political communication, then I think that we have also to keep in mind the dimensional aspect of, and I would understand that political communication should be addressed and strategized in a multidimensional fashion. Multidimensional fashion, I mean that Indian politics has been traditionally classed as something which we call primordial centric, or which we normally in the parlance, day-to-day parlance we say it's caste centric, caste oriented, caste calculus. These are the terms that we are using. And certainly we have to have all these things simultaneously with other things. I am not saying that you leave aside these caste dynamics. You stick to that. But if you only stick to the caste dynamics, you will be relegated to what has happened to Mayawati in Uttar Pradesh, you will be relegated to what has happened to the Samajwadi Party in Uttar Pradesh, and you will be relegated to some other people and some other political parties who are, following exclusionary politics. Therefore, my advice in political consultancy would be that please, when you are trying to politically communicate, you communicate in an inclusive manner. Not an exclusionary manner, you have an inclusive approach. And what I mean by an inclusive approach, and that inclusive approach we have seen after the arrival of Mr. Modi. You may agree Modi, you may disagree Modi, that's your right. That's your prerogative, democracy gives you the right. But then we have to analyze the political strategies hidden in the political communication strategy of a particular politician or a political party. What I have felt that Mr. Modi has been able to take the BJP vote share from 12 to 15, from 15% to 50% vote share, not because he was focusing on an exclusionary communication or exclusionary mobilization, but from day one he coined this, a phrase, "Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas." Initially, people thought that it was just a jumla, and it was rampant in the media, it was rampant in the political domain, that it was a jumla, sabka saath, sabka vikas, how can it be? But then you see that sabka saath, sabka vikas is getting translated into a reality, and 15% jumping to 50%. So from where that vote share came? That was purely a transition from exclusionary politics of the BJP. BJP used to be called the Brahman Baniya urban class party. But that Brahman Baniya urban class party, our field study has shown, is now getting more votes in rural areas than the urban areas. They are getting more votes than in more sort of sectors so far as the women are concerned. So here is a person who has tried to reform, transform, the BJP's political communication strategies. Revamp the entire strategy of political communication of the BJP, and that's why people in the urban, people in the rural, be it gender, male or be it female, be it middle class, be it the upper class, it's so spontaneous, but then he has the largest number of claps during his election rallies, whether it be India or whether it be abroad. So that kind of political communication we have to learn from a Modi model of politics. And this is what has brought him to the Indian politics and to the creating history, third time becoming the Prime Minister. So political communication is both an art as well as a science, and we have to analyze each and every politician and pick up so that we can prescribe to the politicians, besides the consulting agencies who are showing their pathological report as a doctor. Professor Apurod has to tell them that your profile is this and you have to follow this model of political communication. Thank you very much.